Hi, my name is Amy Pear. I am a Morehead State University student, and I am doing a movie critique for nursing, leadership, and management. The movie I have chosen to critique is Dallas Buyers Club. It's a 2013 drama based on the life of Ron Woodruff, who's portrayed by Matthew McConaughey. The movie is set in 1985, where Ron is an electrician, part-time bull rider, and full-time hustler. He partakes in all kinds of high-risk behaviors such as smoking, drinking, cocaine use, and unprotected sex with multiple partners. Ron's steadily declining health was causing him to look malnourished, have a steady cough, and have syncopal episodes. By chance, Ron was electrocuted at work one day and awoken in the hospital. The doctors entered his room wearing face masks and gloves. They informed him that they had tested his blood and that he had tested positive for HIV, and his T-cell count was 9. Dr. Savard gave Ron just 30 days to live. Ron immediately refused to accept the test results and became verbally abusive. He was adamant that the hospital had mixed up his blood work because he wasn't homosexual and he couldn't have HIV. Ron went back to his unhealthy lifestyle of partying, but he was constantly reminded of his 30 days left to live. So Ron decided to do a little research at the local library. He learned that some of the risks for contracting HIV were similar to his lifestyle, and he came to the realization that he could possibly have HIV. His research also led him on to the medication AZT. AZT was originally a cancer treatment drug in 1964, but came with troubling side effects and toxicity. The FDA gave permission for the manufacturers of AZT to move straight into human trials because of the AIDS epidemic of the times. Ron approached his doctors, asking for the AZT treatment. They informed him that he could participate in the double-blind study, but he wasn't guaranteed the medication versus the placebo. Ron was outraged and stormed off. That same day, Ron went to meet up with some of his friends at a local pub. His friends had learned about his HIV status and were unwelcoming to him. They treated him as if he was toxic. He ended up getting in a fight with them and leaving. Feeling alone, Ron headed to the strip club where he started bargaining with God to let him live. There, he ran into an orderly in the hospital and was able to bribe him into stealing AZT. Ron self-medicated at inaccurate dosages and continued his risky lifestyle. He tried to return to work, but he was unwelcome there too. They not only looked down on him because of the HIV, but also because they thought he was a homosexual due to his diagnosis. Eventually, the AZT started to get locked up at the hospital and his supply ran dry. The orderly gave him the name of Dr. Vass in Mexico who could help him. Before Ron could make it there, he ended up in the hospital with a near-death experience caused by toxic doses of the AZT. The hospital had to give him a blood transfusion to correct the problem. While in the hospital, Ron was roomed with a transgender male who was there for the AZT trial named Rayon, played by Jared Leto. Ron is cruel to Rayon, even though she's kind to him. Ron leaves against medical advice and returns home to his vandalized trailer to collect all his money before heading to Mexico. Ron finds Dr. Vass in Mexico at a small clinic and is informed that AZT is poisonous and kills everything it comes into contact with. Dr. Vass also informs Ron that he has full-blown AIDS due to his HIV status and chronic pneumonia. Vass starts Ron on a medication called DDC, which is an antiretroviral being studied in France, and a protein called peptide T, along with several other vitamins. These drugs weren't necessarily illegal in the US, they just weren't approved by the FDA. After 3 months under Dr. Vass's care, Ron's health improved and his T-cell count had increased. Ron got the brilliant idea to start selling these medications to other HIV-positive people in the US who couldn't get treatment. Dr. Vass gave him supplies, and he headed back to the US, posing as a priest with cancer. Back home, Ron couldn't get people to buy his product. He had a hard time even approaching the openly gay due to his homophobia. Rayon approached Ron, hoping to become a client but also wanting in on the business. Rayon was able to bring clients that Ron had no chance of convincing. The business was booming. To avoid legal conflicts of selling pharmaceuticals, Ron got the idea to start a business called the Dallas Buyers Club. He hired an attorney to make the business legitimate and moved into a hotel for office space. Members of the club paid $400 a month to belong, and they received all the medication for free. In the meantime, the AZT trials were causing people to have decreased blood cell counts and was causing them to need blood transfusions. Dr. Sachs, played by Jennifer Garner, brought up her concerns with her superior, Dr. Zavard, and he dismissed her concerns. AZT ended up getting approved by the FDA for treatment of AIDS at a cost of $10,000 per year for patients, even though a France study shows it was too toxic and had no lasting side effects. But the NIH did not include this study in the FDA approval process. Ron's business started having issues. His client's insurance wouldn't pay for the treatment, but yet it would pay for the AZT. The FDA started targeting the Buyers Club. The IRS audited the club. Ron continued to do research for treating HIV. He went to Japan to buy alpha interferon and smuggled it back into the US. While in the airport, Ron injected himself, and this induced a heart attack. He was taken to the hospital, and they started him on AZT. Upon awakening, Ron threatened to sue the hospital for attempted murder for administering the medication. Also, the FDA confiscated all the interferon he had smuggled back. Ron was running out of suppliers. He started looking in Israel, China, Amsterdam. On March 11, 1987, the courts made a ruling from the FDA requiring an MD prescription for the medications that Ron was giving away. The FDA confiscated all of the Dallas Buyers Club supplies and brought the business to a crawl. Rayon, who was now becoming close friends with Ron, had started to deteriorate in health. She is able to get money from her father as a last-ditch effort to keep the club in operation. Members of the club donated a house to Ron for free so that the club could continue to help people get by. Ron returned to Dr. Vass to learn about new research and medications that he was working with. When he returns, he learns that Rayon had died, and he was devastated. Ron ends up suing for the right to take non-legal medications for the treatment of his condition. His case was heard by the U.S. District Court in San Francisco. They ruled that a person has the right to choose their own medical care as long as it is approved by the FDA. Following the trial, the courts allow Ron to obtain peptide T for his own personal use. Day 2557. 7 years after being diagnosed with HIV, Ron died of AIDS on September 12, 1992. By this time, AZT had become widely used in lower doses to treat HIV and had saved millions of lives. So how is this issue relevant to my life or my area of practice? First, I had a family member who had AIDS, and I witnessed his struggle with the diagnosis and the burden and the stigma that the disease carried, and I don't think it was fair. The medications were ridiculously expensive, and proactive doctors were hard to come by. With over 1 million people living in the U.S. with HIV, it is relevant to any practice in healthcare. We need to make sure that we stay informed about the disease so that our patients can receive the best care possible. We need to educate the ignorant who still carry the stigma that HIV is only associated with the homosexual lifestyle. Also, I would like to point out the political power that the pharmaceutical companies have on programs that should be uncompromised by money. It has long been an issue that pharma companies line the pockets of politicians to gain the upper hand in getting medications passed through the FDA approval process when it is undeserved, such as the premature approval of the AZT. This movie has done a marvelous job of portraying the attitudes of Americans regarding HIV. It also did a great job of showing the stages of grief that Ron went through with his diagnosis and the death of his friend Rayon. It is an eye-opening movie, and I highly recommend it if you can deal with the nudity and the language. Thank you for listening, and have a wonderful day.